this journey, because there is such a risk of digital exclusion. There is such a risk, particularly in the people and populations that we support, making sure that digital is part of our offers, and for those people who can engage with a digital platform, let's make it a really good platform, but let's make sure that there is a wider offer for those people who can't.
Matthew, can I just come in on the digital point?
Of course, Rebecca.
There is some really exciting stuff kind of further up ahead, and I'm really interested to know what the kind of innovator hubs that were talked about in the 10-year plan mean and what that will deliver. There's a great promise around kind of technologies that sit alongside clinical teams and aid in diagnosis and treatment. I think there's probably quite a lot of potential around wearable technologies. There's some interesting work around wearables and prediction of relapse in severe mental illness, and technology that will work alongside biomarkers for things like bipolar disorder. Interesting work to develop platforms that would allow people with relatively severe mental health challenges sitting within a kind of lower level of support for longer in terms of being able to monitor their conditions. So we always moan that mental health has had much more limited research funding as it has over many decades, but that, there's been a big shift from Wellcome and IHR and the MRC in recent years. I think we'll see some of that coming through. The app's an interesting one. There's something in the plan about the anti-link straight through to talking therapies. That's important. The big expansion talking therapies will not be possible without a significant amount of digital facilitation of the systems and also some degree of delivery. I think there's also the ability of the app to support the linking through to community resources. And this question of how do we connect the support that people might find beyond healthcare in the community is a really interesting one to think through. And also the kind of bringing back of the health app store. That's interesting. We know that people may benefit from some CBT-based self-help apps. We've just got to make sure that they are as evidence-based as possible, which is always the case with app technology. It can be challenging, but there's some promise there for maybe a little bit further upstream.
I just a couple of things, if I may. So I wanted to also say that there are many places today, many organizations, trust in particular, that already have patient engagement portals. We've got one where if you come into our service, you have access to it. Many organizations do. And what we then need to try and do is how we push information to users of services, and they also push information to us, and we can use that as a way of guiding them to resources that are out there in the community. The real bit that we now need to do is make sure that each of these portals developed by many organizations all link through the NHS app. So the single point of accessing them will be the NHS app, or else if you receive care from 3 or 4 organizations, you have to do 4 things. And then the other thing, which I know that James and people around where he is already doing, is starting in London, where people thinking about developing a website to post approved self-help guides. Because there are lots and lots of things out there in app stores, etc. But it's about how we get a panel of experts to review them and consider the ones that are really relevant and important, and we can then kite mark those for people to access. So there's quite a lot going on, in addition, of course, to what Rebecca said, which is in the 5 to 10 year period from now.
Great. Well, thank you all for that. Let's turn to another theme. You've already talked about it a bit, which is this care closer to home theme. Obviously, and as Rebecca and I never tire of telling people, the mental health sector has been on this journey successfully and radically for decades. Rebecca, what do you hear from other members around this kind of 24/7 model, people's hopes for it, and what the kind of key success factors will be?
So I think it's good to recognise that the 24/7 model essentially captures ingredients that do exist in what's called the Community Mental Health Services Framework, which I think there's general consensus, the principles of which are around, the principles in terms of adults' severe mental illness. There's consensus around, but actually implementation of that and the transformation that was hoped would sit alongside that hasn't necessarily been as consistent as I think people would hope. It does mirror an awful lot of what already happens in lots of different trusts in different places. And I'm not undermining anyway its potential. I was quite close in my last role to the development of the plans for the 24/7 model in Lewisham. But it also is inspired by places like Navigo, which is a community interest company that provides mental health services in North Lincolnshire, that have taken this much more joined up, holistic social and health model for some time. So I think it shows promise. I think there is a challenge in the plan, which is unsurprising in terms of, we know, we say this as a Concord a lot, that the lack of capital funding is going to create challenges if we are very reliant on new spaces to deliver some of this change. We're going to have to both be allowed within the NHS, I think, organisations allowed to free up their own spaces and land and use receipts from those disposals to create new spaces, and also think imaginatively across sectors, local authority, NHS, voluntary sector, about how new spaces are created, both the things like 24/7 pilots, also the neighbourhood health centres that will be more broad. So I think there is promise there, but we know what the key ingredients are, and it's really about how do you make models like that work in different spaces, in different communities, in a way that really works for populations. The other thing that I was going to carry on to this, because I think there's lots of things that are promising in the 10-year plan. Our members talk about the neighbourhood, digital. The other thing that's not mentioned, I think is important, is the promise of modern service frameworks. And Iffy and James will have strong recollection of national service frameworks that were developed before. We may all not have the same views of this, but I think there is some potential here, because I think that while all people in the NHS will say that they want to make sure that they can design according to the needs and driven by and with their local communities, and that there will always be variation in what that looks like on the ground, I also hear quite a lot from leaders that they also think there should be more consistency to some extent in terms of what patients can expect from a care pathway, what that should look like, making sure it's genuinely evidence-based. And I think the modern service frameworks, we're not sure yet whether there'll be a mental health strategy or implementation plan, or whether this is all just about the modern service frameworks yet. We're still waiting to find out more. But I think there is some real potential for having a consensus around what does good care look like that integrates some of the other elements of the plan, like your assertive outreach.
Let me pick up on that point to come to you, because one of the kind of key challenges and questions, opportunities around the 10-year plan is around the kind of local operating model. And your ICB has really moved very quickly on that to announce who's going to be playing that kind of integrated function at a place level. And you're going to be, Oxley is going to be part of that. This is intended, along with other things in the plan, just to make sure that we look at things in a more systemic way, and that we address the issue of failure demand in acute hospitals. Now, part of that, for example, is rollout of mental health emergency departments. Obviously, there's going to be a different way of funding the UEC pathway. So I know it's a big question, Iffy, but when you, in terms of your place, in terms of your system, in terms of the partners working in a more collaborative way around issues like mental health and emergency care, how confident are you that we can shift through the gears and work in a better way?
I'm quite confident about that, and so just to go back a few steps, you talked about the fact that mental health specifically has been working in communities for decades. That is so. A lot of people we look after in the community. Tiny percentage, ever come into our beds. That's always been the case. I like the idea of the national service frameworks that help us get people to develop our services. And I think now that we also need to be thinking about some kind of framework to help us as we develop the neighborhood arrangement. You picked up on the fact that we are going to play a role as an integrator in Bexley. We've had a Section 75 arrangement with the council for the last 7 or 8 years. We've been working very closely. We supervise local authority staff, we supervise our staff in our teams, etc. We work really well with the volunteer and care sector. We work particularly well with general practitioners in the area. And so I think that we're really quite ready to take on the next stage of things. The other point to make, we're not one of the pilot sites for the 24/7. We're also, certainly not in my part of South East London, we don't have the mental health emergency department, but we've got other things. We have our community mental health hubs, where we see 600 referrals a month. That is staffed by volunteer and care sector, local authority, NHS, and other organizations, where we provide support to people who pitch up with a range of issues, be it housing, be it benefits, whatever else it may be, and we try and support them. So we're already doing that albeit in ours. Out of ours, we have recovery houses where when people pitch up in ED and they don't need to be in hospital but they're in a crisis, we take them to a recovery house. We spend a week or 10 days in the recovery house, provided and serviced by volunteer care sector, not NHS. So we've got bits of things that we're bringing together to enable us to redefine and to improve the provision going forward. Even though I've talked about framework for neighborhoods, I think it's important to realize that one has to tailor it to the needs of the local area, and that's what we're doing. In some other parts, they'll have different issues that they need to contend with. I feel particularly pleased that when people pitch up in ED today as an outcome measure for us, that only 13% of people who pitch up in ED ever end up in hospital. The rest, we address their needs differently. And the majority of people who pitch up are not known to us.
So Rebecca, to end with you on this question, as you and I have discussed, there are so many ways in which mental health has been ahead of the rest of the service, in digital, in engaging with the community and voluntary sector in terms of care closer to home. There is a real opportunity within the 10-year plan at place and system level for mental health to play a strong integrating role, a neighbourhood role, a system role. Working with members, how do you think we can best support our members to grasp this opportunity?
I think what our members are asking for is support on some of the key areas where they know there is much work to be done, but also that there is a case to be made really clearly. So, it will not surprise you, Matthew, if I talk about share of spend. We know, recent data shows that share of spend on mental health is about 8.7%, slightly down on where we hope we'd be. Everybody in the system, I think, recognises that's too low. That can be true at the same time as all the points that Iffy and James have made around the potential to improve productivity and to spend what we have better. But, a much cited piece of data recently, Matthew, you and I both talked about this, from the East Birmingham integrated care teams, demonstrated that if people in communities are supported in the right way, you can reduce expenditure on all sorts of areas of healthcare, whether it's GP time, A&E, attendances, but you do need to invest more in mental health support. And I think we need to tell that story, and that will only be supported in part by us really getting to grips with the metrics, with the data, with understanding cost and value and the value we get from our input. So there is a picture there around to challenge the system, but also a story to be told. And also a narrative. I think members are crying out for the narrative around mental health to be given the nuance and complexity that it sometimes misses. So Jim Mackey, when he came to speak at our Mental Health Network conference in April, said that he felt he'd been guilty of something which is very common in parts of the healthcare system, which is seeing mental health and mental illness just as one thing and not totally recognising the complexity of need and services. And I hear a lot of members saying that it's brilliant that we are focused on meeting more need upstream, talking therapies, engaging with schools. We can't neglect the needs of those with severe mental illness and those with learning disability in that focus, and recognise those two things are not always connected. But I think the plan does speak to some of this, and I think this plan does illustrate a growing recognition of the place of mental health and the interconnection between some of the government ambitions about wider health, the economy, work, and where mental health sits. So there's a lot to do. Our members want us to do more convening, whether it's around development of new tariffs and productivity and what's going on with performance data at the moment, which is creating some challenges. But they're also looking for support on making sure that we tell that really clear narrative about the role of mental health services in both providing that really excellent specialist care that so many provide, but also playing into that wider model that drives care and support in a more holistic way upstream and hopefully prevents mental illness.
Well, look, it's been a fascinating conversation. It's scraped the surface of so many issues. Iffy and James, we're going to have to get you back on again very soon. Thank you, and Rebecca also for joining me on Health on the Line.
Thank
you, everyone.
Well, thank you so much to my guests, Iffy, James and Rebecca, for sharing your thoughts with us today. And as I say, do keep an eye on our website where we'll be posting lots of opportunities for members to get involved in discussions around how we work to make this plan a reality. And that just leaves me to introduce our Leader in 6 interview, which this time is Tom Gurney, Director of Strategic Communication and Engagement at Hampshire and Isle of Wight ICB and co-chair of the Confed ICB Comms Board. He spoke a few days ago to my colleague Sarah Miller.
Now, Tom, what would you say is the kind of most pressing issue for you right now? What's your biggest challenge?
I think the most pressing issue for me, and probably other communications professionals out there, particularly within ICBs and probably in the single our guests, is this parallel discourse that we have around the 10-year plan with our internal and external audiences. So externally, the 10-year plan, this is a great vehicle for change. It sets the strategic direction for the NHS. It's got ideas and innovation and new models of care that will address people's real-life issues today and give them hope that improvement and progress is going to be made. So that's all really positive. It's really important we promote and frame it in that way. However, it's slightly different from an internal audience point of view, because at the moment, as many people I'm sure recognise, that the reform, it means that a lot of staff, particularly in ICBs and West England, it's an unsettling time, they're not quite sure what their futures are, and it means I think it's more difficult for them to fully engage in that sort of long-term vision and hope, if you like. But of course it's really important that they are engaging, because they are the very people that help deliver it. So it's about finding the balance between setting out a positive picture of the future and not being tone deaf.
It's all about humanity
At the moment, which is a challenge, but obviously that's what we're here to do, isn't it?
What is the area that you say is sort of an area of improvement or innovation in your area of work that you are particularly proud of or excited by, or something you're really pleased that you and your team have achieved?
It's all about
I think there's a lot of things I'm proud of. We had this big consultation, formal public consultation we did last year around the new hospital, which was seen as best practice at the time. Really, really proud of how we built in people's voice and their views in terms of shaping some of the decisions that were made around that. But I think what I'm most excited about is how do we make that better? How do we, not just consultation, but how do we make public engagement and bring public voice much more into the work we do? And I think the part of the reform, and I talked about just now around it's difficult and it's a challenging time, but obviously there's loads of opportunity as well to do things differently. And one of the big things for me is that opportunity to really bring public voice. And notice I said public voice, not patient voice, but public voice much more into the NHS and how we work. And I think with the new models of care and neighbourhood health providers, there is a real opportunity to do it differently. And also ICBs can do that. And so that is something I'm really quite excited about. It's something I think we do a lot of work on is to try to get public voice and do. I think we're going to be really honest with ourselves. We could do a lot more.
Now, obviously you have a very busy job, but when you do get a bit of time for yourself, what do you do outside of work?
Well, actually, I've got another full-time job, and that is being a dad of 4 small children, 12, 10, 7 and 4. So I've got a busy job. I've got another really busy job, and I mean, most working parents should say the same, I'm sure, but obviously kids, absolutely fantastic, brilliant kids, so rewarding, enjoy to your life, keep you grounded, respected, etc. But I'm not going to lie, it is really difficult trying to juggle work-life balance and just the spinning plates that you have to deal with. And I think we probably don't talk about it enough. I think my reflection is at the moment, with social media, probably people expect you to live that Instagram life and be perfect and you can have it all. But the reality is, actually, it's pretty chaotic. And you've got to embrace the chaos, accept that, and do the best you do. So I really enjoy it, and I try not to compare it and be a bit kind to yourself, really, because you can't do everything all the time.
No, absolutely. I can relate to that one. 100%. If you were NHS king for the day, what's the one thing, or one reform you would love to introduce? What one thing would you love to change?
I think the last thing the NHS needs right now is more reform. I think we're crying out for some stability. Now, obviously, reform, innovation, ideas change is needed. But my own reflection, I've worked in NHS for over 15 years now. It can be stifling if you're not given enough time to embed and actually see some of the improvements through. And it feels like just when you're getting somewhere, things change again. So I think with the 10-year plan, I'm hoping there will be a period of stability to actually make some of the innovation and reform work. So I think if I was king for the day of NXT, I'd just a little bit of time and space to breathe, because you can strangle the NHS a little bit with too much change.
In terms of sort of leaders that you look up to and you think that's the kind of leader I would like to be, is there someone that you have in mind? Could be a health service leader, or just somebody, a politician, or a leader in another sphere that you think that's a great example of a leader?
So I'd be lucky to work with a few chief executives. So, I mean, there was Adam Doyle in Sussex, I think he's a fantastic leader, and our current chief exec, Maggie Kaiser. I think two very different styles, different ways of leading, but I think just being a chief exec of any NHS organisation is really, really difficult. But what I would say is, when I actually think of leadership in the NHS, I do not think of the classic chief exec or director of this, director of that. I actually think of my mum, and the reason I say that is because she was a nurse for 40 years. And when I was a teenager, actually, my weekend job was being a housekeeper at our local hospital. So while my friends were working in McDonald's, etc., I was serving the dinners at East Surrey Hospital. And I was often on the ward where my mum was a sister. And just seeing her and other nurses, so it's not just her, because it's just incredible to see, calm under pressure, making decisions, working in extremely difficult situations, and then also obviously doing it with real compassion, putting the person and patient and their families at the centre of it. When I think of NHS leadership, that is what I think, and then that is why I work for the NHS, and that is really what inspires me.
That's lovely. Given what you just said about busy family life, would you have time for the odd film, TV series or podcast, or are you going to tell me that you mainly watch Bluey?
Yeah, mainly Bluey and Peppa Pig, to be perfectly honest. But no, I think when I get a chance to watch TV, this is an opportunity for me to feel highbrow, isn't it, and think how sophisticated my taste sounds. But no, actually, I like a bit of light-heartedness, relax. I like comedy. I watch a lot of sitcoms, etc. Sound good, I'm not so good. But I think something I watched really recently, which is probably my all-time favourite, and I watched the reruns recently, is The Thick of It. I don't think you can beat it. I just love it, and of course, as a comms director, how can you not like Malcolm Tucker? Which, by the way, I bear no resemblance whatsoever.
That's brilliant, lovely. Well, Tom, thanks very much for joining us for Leader in Six.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Health and Alliance, produced by Health Comms Plus. Health Comms Plus is a highly effective, innovative and creative communications agency brought to you by the NHS Confederation. We offer a creative, professional and cost-effective service for NHS and public sector organisations across the UK. Any profit we make is reinvested in the support we provide to NHS organisations and wider health and care systems.
속마음을 알 수 없다는데 그건 케바케인 듯하다. 국내 연애가 힘들면 국제 연애도 괜찮습니다, 형님들이라고 적어졌습니다. 참고로 요즘에 제 방송에도 그 일본 여자하고 뭐 사귀거나 결혼하신 분들이 좀 계십니다. 제 방송에 본 분만 해도 한 7분 되는 것 같아요. 네. 일단 다 좋은 거네요. 참 근데 이 얘기 들으면서 참 한편으로는 씁쓸하다는 생각이 듭니다. HD님 제가 폐폭 하나 할까요? 폐폭? 그러니까 지금 1번부터 7번까지 이렇게 장점을 적었잖아요. 근데 이 말은 뭐냐 하면 내가 한국 여자 사귀면서 못 느껴봤던 거예요. 이거를 참 외국 여자가 느낀다는 게 참 쓰다지 않습니까, 여러분? 한국 현지에서 못 느끼는 건데 이제 섬나라, 예, 반대편 나라의 여성한테 느낀다는 게 언어도 안 통하고 문화적으로 다른데 그 사람한테 이걸 느낀다는 게 참 신기하지 않습니까? 이거 보면 좀 느끼는 거 없나? 이게 막 우리가 뭐 많은 걸 바라는 게 아니잖아, 맞죠? 근데 저분들 해주잖아. 우리가 해달라고 한 적이 없는데 해주잖아요. 근데 한국은 안 해줘요. 뭔가 문제가 많다는 얘기인데 그렇지 않습니까? 자, 1번부터 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. 자, 일본 여자는 고맙다는 표현을 많이 한다. 반대로 얘기하자면 한국 여자는 고맙다는 표현을 안 해요. 네. 자, LK주님, 그 전 여친분하고 사귀면서 고맙다는 표현을 들어본 적 있습니까? 뭔가 당연한 걸 바란 듯한 그런 행동을 많이 하지 않나요? 한국 여자분들이 아실지 모르겠지만 고맙다는 표현 안 합니다. 안 해요. 네, 정말 안 합니다. 아니 이거는 근데 데이트 문화뿐만 아니라 일할 때도 마찬가지. 일할 때도 보면 한국 여자들이 보면 뭔가 자기가 대접을 받고 좀 배려해줘도 고맙다는 얘기를 안 해요. 왜 안 하는지 모르겠습니다. 뭔가 어떤 마인드냐면 난 당연히 받을 거 받았다. 이 정도는 당연히 내가 누려야 된다. 이런 마인드를 밑바탕 깔고 있는 사람이 굉장히 많아. 정말 많습니다. 이게 굉장히 여자분들이 좀 잘못하고 있는 거예요. 이 비단 어떤 데이트 문화뿐만 아니라 업무 같은 데도 마찬가지야 이게. 그냥 여자이기 때문에 좀 신경 써주고 하는 건데 그게 뭔가 자기들은 기본값을 알고 있어. 안 해주면 그만인데 그렇지 않습니까? 자 2번 더치페이가 기분을 깔려있다. 이것도 한국에서는 좀 많이 볼 수 없는 건데 한국에서는 좀 이상한 게 뭐냐면 남자한테 뭔가 좀 얻어먹어야 많이 대접받아야 자기가 뭔가 사랑받는다는 이제 마인드 가진 사람들이 많아요. 네. 한국은 좀 이상해요. 그러니까 비너스님도 알겠지만 한국이 정말 기형적인 어떤 연애 결혼 문화를 가지고 있다는 사실을 알겠죠. 그러니까 지금 그 외국 여자하고 사귀거나 지금 외국 땅에 계신 분들은 한국의 연애 문화가 얼마나 좀 이상한지 한국 땅에 있을 때 모르는데 외국에 가보면 아는 거죠. 이게. 한국이 정말 말도 안 되게 기형적입니다. 맞죠? 그래 한국은 고립되는 거야 이게 고립. 물론 지금은 좀 많이 바뀌어요. 지금 젊은 여자들은 그래도 더치페이를 하려고 합니다. 근데 나이가 좀 차신 분들은 안 하려고 그래. 여러분 이거 어디서 볼 수 있는지 아세요? 여자분들이 막 나이 먹어서 대접받으려는 거. 그 돌싱 프로그램 있잖아. 그 소개팅 프로그램 보면 그런 거 좀 가짜지 않습니까? 그런 프로그램 보면 나이 먹고 이제 홍기 다 지나가지고
감정을
급한 사람이
조절할 수 없는
나와가지고
사람인가 봐.
따지고
이런
세고 한다고
식으로
웃기지 않나 여러분?
오히려
역겨워,
스스로에
진짜.
대해서
솔직히 말해서.
비난하고
그 나이 먹어도 그게 된다고 생각을 해. 뭐가 돼 그게? 사십 넘은 여자들이 남자 조건 따진다. 근데 사십 넘은 남자들이 안 만나요. 안 만나. 예. 지금 한국이 어떻게 되냐? 그냥 30대 중반 넘어가면 예뻐도 안 만나요. 안 만나. 예. 안 만나니까 이제 그런 돌싱 프로그램이 나오는 거지. 이게. 안 되니까. 생각해봐. 내가 나이 먹어도 누구 만날 수 있고 인기 많고 짝이 있으면 그런 소개팅, 결혼 프로그램은 안 나오겠죠. 못 만나니까 나오는 거야. 자, 3번. 일본 한국보다 모든 게 비싸고 월급이 적기 때문에. 그렇죠. 한국이 월급이 더 많아요. 더 많습니다. 일본이 월급이 진짜 적어요, 여러분. 데이트 코스가 한정되어 있다. 그래서 일본 가면 약간 소소한 데이트 같은 거 있죠. 소소한 데이트. 그 많이 한다고 들었습니다. 한국하고 또 일본의 다른 점이 뭐냐면 뭐 HK님이 좀 공감할지 모르겠지만 한국 여자들 기본적으로 걷는 걸 싫어합니다. 차 타고 어디 왔다 갔다 하는 거 좋아해요. 이것도 대접받는 거죠. 뭐냐면 남자가 차를 끄고 와서 날 데리러 와서 날 태우고 어디 드라이브 가서 저희 가서 밥 먹고 저희 가서 쇼핑하고 저희 가서 뭐 어디 관람하고 이런 걸 좋아합니다. 근데 일본은 다르죠. 일본은 걷는 걸 좋아해요. 일본 가보면 좀 특이한 게 뭐냐면 일본 유튜브 같은 거 보면 그 일본의 어떤 거리 같은 거 보이면 특이한 게 뭐냐면요. 일본은 그런 힐 같은 거 잘 안 싫어요. 한국도 뭐 힐을 지금 많이 아시지만 지금도 신는 사람 신거든요. 운동을 많이 신습니다. 왜냐? 말이 걸어다니려면 아무래도 다리 편해야 되잖아. 그래서 일본에 이렇게 소소하게 걸어다니면서 이제 풍경 보고. 근데 한국도 좀 바뀌고 있습니다. 한국도 예전하고 좀 달라지고 있어요. 한국도 걷는 분들이 많아지고 있어요. 좋은 현상이야. 근데 이미 나이가 차신 분들은 안 변해요. 네. 약간 나이가 좀 3자에 들어가신 분들은 힐을 신습니다. 오히려 젊은 친구들은 운동화 신어요. 한국도 좀 바뀌어가고 있어요. 어린 친구들이. 이건 좋은 거야. 근데 이미 나이가 좀 찬 사람들은 안 바뀌어요. 그 사람들은 아직도 날 사귀려면 네가 날 태워서 데리러 와줘야 되고 갈 때도 네가 내 집 앞까지 와줘야 된다. 이런 걸 뭔가 기본값으로 가지고 계신 거다. 근데 그분들이 짝이 없어요. 비너스는 좀 요즘에 특이한 게 뭐냐면 길거리 가도 짝 없는 여자들이 많아요. 진짜 많아요. 그 사람들 왜 나왔겠어? 내가 좀 짝이 없으니 좀 건드려봐라 이건데 아무도 안 건드려 요즘에. 그래서 표정이 안 좋은 사람들이 많아요. 이게 좀 많이 달라졌어요. 그러니까 지금 시내나 번화가 가도 짝 없는 사람들이 굉장히 많습니다. 짝 있는 사람보다 없는 사람이 몰등하게 많아요. 여자도 있잖아요. 짝이 없는데 그냥 돌아다니는 거야. 왜 그러겠어요 이게? 옛날 같으면 옛날 이제 몇 년 전이면 남자들이 이렇게 막 찝쩍대고 막 뭐 이렇게 번호 따고 해야 되는데 요즘 그런 게 없어요. 없어요. 어디 가든 없어요 이게. 아무도 안 건드려요. 나이가 찼잖아요. 그냥 아무도 안 쳐다봐요. 이게. 점점 그렇게 되고 있습니다. 이게 일본이 미리 겪었던 거죠. 어떻게 보면. 일본이 불과 한 20년 전에 겪었던 사례인데 한국이 그걸 고스란히 따라하고 있습니다. 스킨십, 관계 등 여러 가지로 생각해서 보수적이다. 근데 이건 한국이 좀 문제가 있어요. 한국이 뭐냐면 한국이 그만큼 개방적이라는 거야. 이거는 한국이 잘못한 게 있어. 뭐냐? 한국 남자들은 일본자들 그 야구 동영상으로 인식하는 그게 있어요. 그래서 좀 오픈될 것이다. 아무래도 그 성진국이라는 그 이미지가 있다 보니까. 근데 아니죠, 여러분. 우리가 착각해야 되는 게 있어. 러시아도 그런 게 있죠. 러시아도 뭐냐 하면 한국 남자들이 이제 야구 동영상 같은 걸 인지하다 보니까 일본 여자들 상당히 이런 성적인 거에 개방적이다. 스킨십 잘할 거다. 그리고 유럽 여성들도 영상으로 봤을 때는 굉장히 화끈하던데 화끈하지 않다라고 생각을 하지만 아니라는 거죠. 뭐 정말 사이고 관계가 돈독해지면 뭐 그럴 수 있겠지만 아직 그런 깊은 관계가 아니라면 보증이 맞는 거죠. 이게 좋은 거예요. 근데 이게 진짜 좋은 겁니다. 한국은 생각해요. 뭐 그런 말 있잖아요. 그런 말 들어봤습니까? 한국은 그런 게 있어요. 그 선색후사라고 있습니다. 이거 뭔 말인지 알죠? 한국은 그런 거예요. 뭔가 있잖아요. 당장 마음에 드는 이제 그런 원나잇 하고 나서 그 다음에 사귀는 케이스도 있어. 아니면 원나잇 하는 끝난다거나. 오히려 한국이 이런 스킨십이나 성적인 부분은 더 개방적이에요. 근데 남자들이 이거 좋아하는 이유가 뭔지 아세요? 그러니까 남자들이 그런 거예요. 뭐냐, 요즘에는 좀 이거 나쁜 표현인데 안 할게요. 그냥 그런 거예요. 그냥 관계만 가지고 끝내는 거야, 이게. 남자들이. 그냥 관계만 적당히 가지고 안 사귀어요, 이게. 그런 사람도 많아졌죠. 남자들도 야가지는 게 뭐냐면 보통 남자 그런 게 있어. 아, 이 여자하고 내가 관계를 가지면 이 여자 사귀게 된다. 되게 책임져야 된다. 이게 과거의 방식인데 요즘에 어떠냐면 그럼 관계만 가지지. 내가 책임을 왜 져? 그건 네 할 바 아니지. 난 관계 가졌으니까 할 만큼 다 했어. 그럼 이제 안 만나도 되겠네. 예, 이거를 좀 표현하는 게 있죠. 제 입으로 얘기 안 하겠습니다. 예, 있습니다. 예. 두 글자가 있어요. 그런 문화가 좀 강해지고 있어요, 한국은. 그러니까 옛날처럼 무조건 관계를 가진다고. 예. 그래서 남자들이 피합니다. 그래서 남자들이 그런 걸 피해요. 예. 죄송한데 그 단어 쓰실 때 그 두 번째 글자 있잖아요. 예. 강 옆에 그 글씨를 좀 X로 표시하면 좋을 것 같습니다. 자, 5. 만날 때만 선물을 준다. 또 선물을 주는 쪽은 남자 아닙니까? 남자 아니에요? 근데 여기서 선물을 준다. 근데 이 선물이라는 게 무슨 비싼 선물 주는 게 아니에요. 예. 뭐 자기가 만든 선물이나 소박한 거 주죠. 소박한 거. 그러니까 한국하고 일본하고 다른 게 일본 여자들은 굉장히 소박한 거 좋아해요. 명품 같은 거 좋아하는 것보다는 명품을 좋아하는 사람도 있겠지만 그런 이제 자잘한 거 있잖아요. 자잘한 거. 자기가 뭐 만든 거 있잖아. 아니면 뭐 문구점 가면 살 수 있는 거. 일본은 그런 팬시 문화 같은 게 많이 발달되어 있거든요. 팬시 문화. 한국도 팬시를 좋아하시는 분 있지만 약간 매니아틱하잖아. 네. 일본은 키티를 좋아하는 사람도 많거든요. 한국도 키티를 좋아하는 사람이 있지만 좀 매니아틱하잖아. 일본은 그런 거 있잖아. 뭐 수첩이나 그런 뭐 다이어리 이런 거 좋아하는 사람들이 굉장히 많이 있어요. 근데 한국은 그런 거 좋아하는 사람들이 소수야, 소수. 네. 한국은 그 사치품 같은 거 관심이 많잖아.
I don't know if it is or not. I've no...
5.
일본
If that
여자도 좀
number
케바키긴
doesn't
하지만
terrify you,
일본
I
만난
don't know
케이스를
what
가지고 얘기하는
will.
거예요. 일본
In
만난 게
today's
준다고
society, we are surrounded on all sides by pretend
자, 6.
gamers. People who
생각보다
pretend to be
검소해서
real
깜짝
It's
gamers,
not on.
아니 근데 검소한
but
분이
in
많아요.
reality have never played
검소한 분이
Super Mario Galaxy. You see, back in the
그러니까
Xbox Live,
검소하지 않은 사람도 있어. 절대 백은 아니에요.
You know who
근데
really got me
제가
fucked
알기로는
up
그래요.
about this was Tectone.
도쿄나 이제 교토
Because
쪽에 사는
Tectone was
분들은
going on
검소한
about how
사람이
much he
별로
likes
없어.
Stellar Blade,
네.
and he said he played Stellar Blade, and I said, "Did you actually play Stellar Blade?" He said, "No, I played the demo for 10 minutes." Bro, these fake gamers makes me so fucking mad, man. Like, it's fake gamers, bro. It's like, no, you didn't play it. Like, if you didn't beat half of the game, you didn't play the game. You can't play 10% of the game and say you beat the game. That's stolen valor. It is.
New salted caramel macadamia bar. That's DOS.
golden era of gaming, everybody's gamer score was visible
Yeah.
to the public. You could just click on somebody's profile and see, okay, you beat Mile High Club on Veteran. This is an actual gamer. But today, they keep it all hidden because of course they do.
My favorite
That's
video.
actually a good point, is that they should probably do that. You know how like you have like a credit score? We could make a website of like a gamer score. That's maybe China can do that, right? Because they have that whole social credit score, so they can make a video game credit score. That's a good idea.
Game is FIFA. My favorite video game would have to be NBA 2K. Been playing that for many years.
Wrong.
My favorite video game is Madden.
No, it isn't.
Call of Duty.
Deleted.
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Actual gamer in the building. Yesterday I was watching.
Honestly, I feel like there are a lot of there are the sports ball gamers where their idea of video gaming is FIFA, 2K, maybe some Call of Duty, right? If they really want to throw down. Other than that, they don't give a fuck. That's it. And there's so many of them.
This Twitch streamer,
and
I'm
Madden,
not gonna say who it is, but
yeah,
you know
no,
what
forgot
I'm
about
talking
Madden.
about. He's going on this huge rant about video games. You could just tell from the look in his eye that he's never played Warcraft 3 in his entire life. Dude was just radiating this never played a Spyro game energy the whole night. You could tell from the chair he was sitting in that the man has never touched a single Hitman game. Then he starts talking
this is the thing people get mad at me for too, because I'm kind of in this boat. I spent so much time only playing World of Warcraft that I thought Avowed was good. Think about that. Really, and so that was bad, right? And I felt it's like that, but people were saying that Plato allegory of the cave. I was in the dark for so long, and now it's just it's a lot, man. You play less games than Elon. I don't know about that, but I mean, maybe. Fuck. It's bad. Joe Rogan, I haven't played any other games. And now I'm trying to play more new games. I'm trying to catch up.
Age of gaming. You know what game he starts talking about? Valorant. And that's when you know this is a 0.03 gamer cred level game.
I don't know, bro. There's a lot of e-girls that play Valorant. I don't even know why.
We have got to boost our numbers, and the first part of this process is learning just how many games are better than Valorant. Max Payne 2, Max Payne 3, Bubsy, Balan.
Did you play Assassin's Creed? Yeah, sure.
I used to play Red Dead Redemption. That shit was fucking hard.
But that's the easiest game ever made. We have to...
I don't know if it is or not. I have no idea.
Expand our knowledge of gaming history or...
See, there's the whole thing of fake gamer girls. See, we threw the baby out with the bathwater. There are some fake gamer girls out there. There are. There's not a lot of them, but they are out there.
Pretenders will erase our illustrious
You think all
legacy.
of them?
Did you know that before the PS5, Sony made games for a different console called the PlayStation 4? Now think on that.
Whoa!
Like EA Sports, I'm in the game. I don't have a game, cuz.
Snoop, you got more games than Master Chief. You were in True Crime, Def Jam, Way of the Dog, Call of Duty, Fortnite. One of the stages in Tekken is just straight up called Snoop Dogg, and it's you sitting there on a big throne.
I don't have a game.
He actually does have more games than Master Chief. How's that even possible?
Here is Naked Snake and Solid Snake. Can you tell me the difference? You have 1 second. Sorry, you took too long. 500 cred has been deducted from your account. You have to understand that we are living in a world with gamers that don't even know about Oddworld Munch's Odyssey.
I'm a big gamer.
You didn't tell me what dimension King Mickey has been sealed in for the past 27 years exactly.
To be fair, he did play Space Marine 2 also. And that's fine. But he also, the thing is with Henry Cavill is that he also only played WoW. As far as I know. He was addicted to WoW also. So it's you're a gamer, you play the same game. That's the thing.
You know, Donkey Kong specifically, that character, I don't think he speaks.
Okay.
When I was a kid, the coolest game was Cool Borders 2 because you could play as a little alien. Today, kids have godlike access to hundreds of incredible aliens.
Let me look at some of these games.
Today,
I think I had Kirby's Adventure. I don't remember that one. I had Adventure of Link. I hated that game. I just want to look through these. Donkey Kong.
Wait. It would be a really good idea for all the video game companies to collectively decide to shut down every server for every live service game for 1 year. And in that time period, people could go and play other single-player games and older games. And no Fortnite, no World of Warcraft, no Valorant, no League. And you have to play, at this point, now you have to play a new game. That'd be peak. Yeah, that would be the year. That would be the year of the awakening.
They don't care how many Valorant skins you have. What they're gonna do is ask you, what's the better bowling game, Flintstones or
playing on
an adult?
Years.
Like. One, these are verified gamers games with highly concentrated CPM.
Yeah.
A player that has played
early
tend to have fun.
So like I was playing on. Like, are you really? So 50 hours gamer against whoever. That has to be the. I unironically believe this. Shit. It's another big thing is that people think that just because something is stupid that it's not true. I actually think the opposite. If you hear something really, really stupid, that's probably what the truth is. That is. It is. That's probably what it really is. I don't think people are motivated to vote because of the censoring of games. I do. I think that everything has an effect like that. And the reason why, and so this is the meta level reason why. It's because guys that see that, they see a group of people that are coming into their space, that are changing their space in a way that these guys don't want, don't like, and don't agree with, and never consented to. And they're going to do whatever they can to say fuck you to those people. Absolutely. And all of those people are very politically minded. They're very socially active. And that's the reason why it would happen. Dude, they're motivated, chatter. Look around. Yeah, think about it, bro. Like, gamers are one of the strongest audiences that there is. Like, we just have to understand that if we can collectively get together and mauled out about something, we can change the world. That's all I'm saying. We can. Now, the only thing that we can't change is microtransactions, because gamers are also stupid, but you can direct that stupidity towards something else.
이거
What you want to do is save hundreds when Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance.
That's great, but can you ask?
Ready?
3, 2, 1,
go! Are you ready?